Hello, this is Dawn, and thank you for joining me for another episode of The Chamber Within. This week is very special to me as it marks my mid year journey for this podcast. I have surpassed my personal expectations as I have been able to consistently show up week to week, busy, not busy, feeling well, not feeling well, and I am blessed to have you all respond in kind by meeting up with me whenever you can. And I want to thank you all for doing that, joining me in this space. This vibrational meeting of the minds and spirit has given me the drive to continue sharing what I've learned through my spiritual awakening thus far. So, this week I want to share some of the books that have really helped me along the way and why. I believe that we are all pieces to a grander puzzle and that we can learn so much from one another. The stories of our lives that we have lived and the lessons along the way can not only benefit us as we grow, but others as well. This is why I share what I have come to know and realize in my life. Just a really quick side note, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but someone can share something small like a part of a recipe or a way to get a stain out. And I really feel like we have things we know not of that are super shareable that would greatly benefit someone else's life. So that's why I do what I do. And that's why I am a huge proponent for community. So I think that we are all important in ways we cannot even imagine. So the books I am about to share, I do so because they reflected back to me the things that no one else believed that was happening to me, like when I mentioned Journeys Out of the Body, um, when I had the courage to tell someone that I knew, or, I know that my experiences are real, that these people whose books I have read not only are speaking their truth, but they were able to help validate my own. So you just never know how your life or speaking your truth about your life can positively impact someone else's. So, to celebrate this consistent growth, and as a way to say, here's to many more episodes, here's my list of my top 5 spiritual books that have blessed me along my spiritual journey back to self. Number 1, Embraced by the Light by Betty Eadie. This is Betty's story about her near death experience. And this book came into my life on a Sunday afternoon at the thrift store. I saw it laid out on a piece of furniture. And the funny thing is, I was just looking at the book section a few minutes prior, and I didn't find anything that day. So I left and went to the furniture section, and it seemed so serendipitous. As I was looking at it, I could feel a strong feeling of pick this up, pick this up, pick this up. Obviously someone picked it up from the book section and changed their mind. And I'm so glad they did, because I read the back of the book to see what it was about, what it was about, and I remembered that this book was of high interest back in the 90s. I don't know if you remember it or if that title rings a bell if you're old enough to remember. So I took it home and I read it all that same night. I could not put it down. This story is an out of body experience that um, spoke of her witnessing heaven. And for me, I was all in. I loved anything spiritual, um, anything of this nature. And so for her to give an account of it in an entire book, I was just super interested. I know why, but I had no idea at the time why I was so interested in things of this nature, this topic. But one of her quotes that I highlighted and I never forgot was that she said that the spirits told her that if you knew how important your thoughts were, you would guard them closely. This is my first communication of spirit to material world directly, right? What did she mean by our thoughts are more powerful than we realize? That line from the book has not ever left my psyche, and it is a common theme now in my spiritual life. So many thoughts run through our minds on a daily basis. Guarding them seems like a task, but okay, I'm up for it if spirit says it's important. Um, so that's the first one, and I still keep that on my bookshelf to this day when I like to reference it. for quotes like that. Number 2, Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks. Now, this was a book I read during the pandemic, and this book opened up my world to the possibility of co-creation and how my life is a reflection of my thoughts and feelings. Yet again, this message of my thoughts being very important, how my vibration is something I can be watchful and mindful of, and meditation. This is when I began to meditate seriously. Um, I started with a few minutes, and day by day, I got better at it. It became my reset button, and I so needed it during this particular time. And then this is a great book for anyone who feels disempowered in their life. I spent many years in fear and worried, thinking I was at the mercy of all outside influences, when really, I was more in control than I thought. This tied the how of being mindful of my thoughts, because I was like, how can I be? This tied, the meditation tied the how to implement this strategy. And so I began to curate them carefully and lead more with gratitude. This starts with, obviously, the thoughts when you go to bed at night and then when you wake up. If you've read the book, you totally get this and then some. But if not, I think it's a great start if you're looking to kind of silence the mind and have it work for you. Have inner peace, if nothing else. Number 3, The Law of One, the raw material. This was very eye-opening as it helped me to understand how everything and everyone is connected, especially during COVID, because we were all experiencing this pandemic together on Earth at the same time. The main principle is that everything extends from one creator, also known as Source, what we refer to as God, a singular principle from which we all extend from. We have our free will in this life, and the channeled entity, which I should back up. Ask and It Is Given is also a channeled book, meaning there is a higher being speaking through the person, and then there's dictation being taken down about the information that is coming through. So basically, we have our free will in this life, and Ra, the entity that is being channeled, talks about how being on Earth is, of course, a school, but we have free will. So with free will comes the ability to choose. Basically, we are either choosing love or fear. And that can also be boiled down to choosing ourselves or choosing to serve ourselves or to serve others, right? There's like a percentage, like, are you mostly for yourself or are you mostly for others? What you do with your life is a series of choices, which leads us all to life experiences because of those choices. Also, that what we are always learning and teaching one another throughout our interactions is not always obvious. So we are teaching through acts of love as well as through acts of violence. We are teaching and people are learning what they prefer to choose. It's a cycle, right? We are learning what we would ultimately like to do in our own lives. Do we find manipulation and control for material gain cool? Harming others? Or are we teaching with love and connectedness and expansion? We then replicate throughout our choices that we make in our lives, and then we go on from there. The greatest takeaway for me for this book was that we are up for harvest, meaning that those of us who choose to love and serve others will be harvested like a graduation of sorts to get out of the reincarnation cycle of learning through pain and begin to learn in other ways. I found this absolutely fascinating because if true, I definitely would love to consciously help others and be free from the ties that bind us, like hate, unforgiveness, violence, revenge, things that we think we need to do because we are caught up in a story of right versus wrong, victimhood versus victor, and this awful back and forth of negativity that only serves to replicate more of the same. And really quickly, when I mention the word harvest, we are living in the time of the Great Awakening, the age of Aquarius, but I can elaborate on that in the future at another time. But I just wanted to kind of tie those two ideas together with the harvest and a great awakening. But before I get to the last two books, I want to say what I was able to do is find discernment through my reading. And discernment is what came of my journey. And for me, you will have this for yourself. I knew I was being led to certain books because they carried a common theme. The theme was love, forgiveness, listening to your inner guidance, which is your intuition, and I stay away from false directives, false teachings, which always lead with fear. I was able to finally recognize that fear is a mechanism for control, and that has been my guiding light always, as well as a relief, as it is a clear demarcation of what I prefer to choose or not to choose in a message, right? I have a quick, like 5 minute intention that I kind of learned the other day as I was watching YouTube. Um, Paul Selig channels the guides, and I've mentioned them multiple times. And they just had a post on YouTube where when you sit and you, in your mind, since God is omnipresent and omnipotent, and you begin to join the vibration of being with God, you could say to yourself, I am in the sea of God, I am of God, and I am with God. It's a reminder that you are not alone. And speaking of the guides, as channeled through Paul Selig, a great book to dive into is I Am the Word. I believe it came out in 2010, and they have released a series of books. Their teachings come in threes. And the last book came out last year in 2024. But their teachings have been a very powerful tool for me. They come with invocations that for me has been life-changing and transformative in how I literally feel as I go about my day. I no longer feel unsafe, vulnerable, and most importantly, alone. I know that I am never alone, no matter how challenging things get. I feel cloaked in protection and knowing that I am an extension of Source, God, all there is. And although others may not know this or feel otherwise, I see them in their glory as well. I see them as my siblings. So that was book number 4. Now, the final book is a book by Neville Goddard called The Power of Awareness. Now, this book helped me to train my mind to focus on what I wanted instead of what I did not want. The idea of knowing, just being aware of the fact that God extends through me. I had the gift of attaining things I may have previously thought was impossible really quickly. Last July, I wanted a number of things. I wanted a number of things to change in my life, and one of them was location. I was 2 time zones away. I'm on the East Coast currently, and I was living in Mountain Time. And the book really gives you tools to how to bring into your life things that you may want or changes you would like to see without effort other than reimagining yourself in that place, in that reality, in that time, in the gratitude of already having it. And of the things I had on my list, moving, I thought even in this practice, oh, that's a huge ask. And it was the first thing that I got checked off of my list because last July I started to sit in the space where I'm so grateful to be back on the East Coast. I'm so grateful to live in XYZ place. And, you know, I would picture myself here when I was there. And September, mid September, by the 15th of September, this will be a year now that I'm back. I was back on the East Coast. And I don't know if that was the spirit saying, see, like it's not a big deal to the power of awareness, the universe, God, us. But to you, it was such a mountain, but it wasn't in reality. That was the one thing on my list. I'm like, this is going to take some time. And of all the books I read and, the things that I know of to be possible, it had to be shown to me that it was possible. I'm writing a list, I'm writing dates down. I'm thinking, oh, maybe 2026 is my year. I'll be ready by then. No, it really literally worked out. So this book, The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, really, really does give you the tools of how to sit in your imagination and create through the abundance of all there is. You do not worry about the how. I don't know if you've heard videos or read books about the power of manifestation. This is the law of assumption, where it literally is you being grateful for having it already. But it works. You do not worry about the how. And even though I've done it consciously with this move, as just like my biggest example that I have, I still get caught up and I'm still a student of this. So I want to pass this list of 5 books on to you, to help you if you need to not feel alone, to feel empowered, to learn how to create and become empowered in your own life. So, as a recap, Embraced by the Light was helpful because it let me know that we are loved and watched over. Also, our thoughts are very powerful. Ask and it is given helped me to fine tune my focus by learning how to meditate and to have discipline over my thoughts as a practice. The Law of One was fascinating because it allowed me to realize that we are all connected. This was the beginning of me putting down defensiveness and accusations of who did what to whom. I Am the Word fortified me in my personal power and taught me how to really forgive, really, truly forgive, by seeing this life as a dance, more accurately, a masquerade. Knowing and seeing every other human as an aspect of God, whether they knew it or not. I don't try to convert, convince, or question anyone. I look at them in love and go on about my day. This took real practice, day to day. So this wasn't overnight where I'm looking at people. People would try to take my parking spots. Like, I'm so serious about this work that I did and the work that it takes. But it is possible to get to a place where you see reflections of yourself, even in the people that get on your darn nerves. I've been there. I've possibly taken a parking spot. Maybe I didn't know I did, but I've done the things that are irritating me. So I don't put anyone out as an enemy. If you love your enemies, you don't have enemies. Also, something I learned. But anyway, the books by Paul Selig always feel like I'm sitting in on a class where I take actual notes, and there's also homework to be done, which is practicing how to see people. Very, very powerful. So for me, Paul Selig and the guides offer healing that was much needed and is so appreciated. The Power of Awareness was fun, right? Because I was able to play in my imagination and drastically change the landscape I saw around me, from my job to where I live, and I continue to consciously contribute in the co-creation of my life with great intention and gratitude for what is to come. Thank you again for helping me to celebrate this 6-month milestone with me as we meet up week after week. I have great plans for this platform in the future as I continue to imagine its growth. For many years, I wanted to join a community where there is no judgment and a place to talk about our spiritual awakenings as it pertains to us as an individual. I have a list of 45 books. If you're interested, listed on my Stand store, and I break down what I got from each book recommendation and what I think you might get from it as an advantage. On my TikTok page, I have posted a number of the titles as well as some quotes that you'll see in the videos that I've made. I've sprinkled in some experiences I have had on that page as well, and the link to my Stand store is from that page if you are interested. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can email me at thechamberwithin yahoo.com. If you want to be a part of my interactive portion of my broadcast, where I read your questions and answer them in the future, whether you would prefer to be anonymous or otherwise, or you can comment on my YouTube channel, and the handle there is at the Chamber Within. Again, thanks for joining me this week, and I hope you all have a great week ahead. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.